And the last of these is mushrooms. Mushrooms. Hello. Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm Elle. This is Az, and this is Elle's Reptiles. This week, we are doing a video that I get questions about a lot. I think the #1 most asked question that I get about bearded dragons always has to do with feeding them, about their food. So today, we're going to talk about 5 foods and 3 honorable mentions that you should never ever feed your bearded dragon. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list. There are a lot more than 5 foods that your bearded dragon shouldn't eat, but we're just going to talk about some more popular ones of those. Before we get started, this video is sponsored by the DivKid, so to find out foods that you most certainly should feed your bearded dragon, stay until the end of the video to find out all about this awesome company and how to save 10% off. Let's get started. The first one we're going to talk about is probably the most common one that I see people feeding their bearded dragons that they shouldn't be, and that is lettuce. Normal iceberg lettuce. It's not one on this list that's going to make them sick, but it is going to make them sick if it's the only food that you're feeding them the entire time. Bearded dragons need high quality greens, so dandelion greens or turnip greens or mustard greens, collard greens, butternut squashes. They need high nutritional value in the vegetables that they're eating, and things like iceberg lettuce are not going to provide that. It's basically water with no nutritional value. So if you are feeding your bearded dragon iceberg lettuce, eventually they can become vitamin deficient, and we obviously don't want that. The next one is going to be basically wild-caught bugs, but specifically lightning bugs, ladybugs, bees, any kind of wild-caught hornworms. All of those are highly toxic. You don't want to feed your bearded dragon any kind of wild-caught bug at all, just because you don't know what they've gotten into. They could have gotten into pesticides. They could have gotten into pesticides. They could have gotten into any kind of poison, and then if your bearded dragon is ingesting that, they're going to get sick. And especially, like I said, those lightning bugs, bees, wasps, wild hornworms, anything like that are actually highly toxic to your bearded dragon and can make them sick. So make sure that if your bearded dragon ingests anything like that, you call a vet and take them in so that they can be checked to make sure that they're going to be okay. Make sure your bearded dragon is not ingesting anything like that. Avocados. So this is one, obviously avocados are a very popular food, but bearded dragons cannot eat them. Avocados actually have a very high amount of oxalic. Avocados actually have a very high amount of oxalic? Why can I not say that all of a sudden? Oxalic? Why did I forget how to say that word?
Oxalic.
Oxalic. Just sounds so weird. Avocados have a very high amount of oxalic acid that is not good for bearded dragons. Oxalic acid actually prevents their body from properly absorbing calcium. So consuming a large amount of avocados, which already have a high amount of oxalic acid in them, can actually be lethal for your bearded dragon. And in small amounts, it still can make them very sick. So make sure that that is not a food that you are putting in their salads. Any kind of citrus is also going to be a definite no for bearded dragons. Citric acid is going to cause your bearded dragon to have an upset stomach. It is going to make them not feel good. It can make them lethargic because they don't feel good. It's not good for them. Anything with a high amount of citric acid, so lemons, oranges, tangerines, anything like that is going to be a definite skip. And if you are putting the juice of fruits on top of your bearded dragon salad, those are also fruits that you want to avoid, because if you are putting it on top of their salads and it's causing them to have an upset stomach, it's going to eventually lead to them not wanting to eat those salads. And the last of these is mushrooms. Mushrooms. And the last of these is mushrooms. So obviously any kind of outdoor mushrooms is going to be a no. Just like we don't go out and eat mushrooms off of the ground. That's going to be a definite no, because a lot of them are very toxic, not just to reptiles, but to everyone. Normal store-bought mushrooms are still going to be a no for bearded dragons. Mushrooms are actually very high in phosphorus, and they're high in oxalic acid. Oxalic acid, we talked about already, prevents the absorption of calcium. High amounts of phosphorus also prevents the absorption of calcium. So that means that if your bearded dragon is ingesting mushrooms, their bodies are not absorbing calcium like they should be at all. So mushrooms are another one, just like avocados. I probably forgot to say it for avocados, but if they have eaten it, if they have eaten a very small amount, you need to watch them, make sure that they're okay. If they've eaten a large amount, you need to take them to the vet so that proper measures can be taken so that your bearded dragon stays healthy and doesn't get sick. And now we have 3 honorable or dishonorable mentions for this list. These are on here because they're not great, but it's also not a your animal should never ever ever eat this. Let's just get into it. The first one is spinach and kale. Spinach and kale also have high amounts of oxalic acid. That means it makes it hard for their bodies to absorb calcium. However, it is not as high as the other ones on the list. So if you feed your bearded dragon spinach and kale on occasion, it's probably fine, but you just don't want to make it a staple food. You don't want to make it an everyday food for them. If you occasionally put in a little spinach or a little kale into their salad, it's fine. I usually advise against it completely because, I mean, if you buy a big bag of spinach or a big bag of kale, people usually aren't gonna just give their bearded dragon 2 leaves in a month, and they're not going to let all that go to waste, so I just advise against it completely. But if your bearded dragon does intake some spinach or some kale, they're not going to need to go to the vet. They're going to be okay, just not super high amounts. Next, we have lots of fruits. Bearded dragons can eat fruits. There are so many fruits that they can eat. They can eat strawberries and grapes and blueberries. There's so many that they can eat. However, lots of fruits is an issue because fruits contain natural sugars. Too much sugar can lead to obesity in your bearded dragon. Obesity in bearded dragons is a pretty extensive issue, so I advise against feeding them a lot of fruits. But if you can take a couple of blueberries and put it on their salad every other day, it's going to be fine. Fruits do need to be a part of their diet, just not a lot of it. Their entire salad should not consist of fruits. And the last one that we're going to talk about to complete the list is pinky mice. So a lot of people are told that their bearded dragons can eat pinky mice. I was told that my bearded dragon could eat pinky mice. However, this is not always the case. Most of the time, bearded dragons should not be eating pinky mice. It leads to fatty liver disease. It leads to obesity. It is hard for them to digest. They should not be eating them. However, if your bearded dragon has just laid eggs or is about to lay eggs, and you know this 100% for certain, you can feed your bearded dragon a pinky mice. Pinky mice are very high in calcium, and calcium is something that is necessary for a bearded dragon that has just laid eggs or that is about to lay eggs. It is necessary in the formation of those eggs. When a bearded dragon is gravid, those eggs are leaching calcium from her body, so a boost in calcium is going to be good for them in that sense. You don't have to feed them pinky mice, but you can, just to boost them back up to where they need to be. And the extra amount of fat and calories after they have laid those eggs is going to be helpful because they stop eating most of the time when they're about to lay eggs, and they tend to lose weight because they usually lay 15 to 30 eggs. Otherwise, you want to avoid it. It causes more harm than good. It's just something that you should try your best to avoid completely. But that is all that I have for this video. This was another short video. I'm actually kind of proud of myself for making short videos and not rambling the whole time. Look at me. But that's it. Obviously, this was not an extensive list, like I said at the beginning. I will leave a couple links down below to safe food lists that show you what foods are safe for bearded dragons, what foods are not safe for bearded dragons, how you should prepare the foods that are safe. I do get questions about this quite a lot for the butternut squash on that list. Just gonna throw this in here really quick. It says you have to cook it. You don't necessarily have to cook it. Cooking it softens butternut squash because a lot of butternut squash, if it's just cubed, it is very hard. But if you take it on a cheese grater and you just grate up the squash, you're good to go. It's soft and they're tiny. Or get frozen organic butternut squash cubes, and when you defrost them in water, they're super soft. Anyway, any other experiences or suggestions of what not to feed your bearded dragon, leave in the comments down below because you might help someone else out. As I said at the beginning of this video is sponsored by the Dubia Dude. The Dubia Dude is a great place to get dubia roaches, which are safe for bearded dragons. They are more than safe. They are super healthy. They are an amazing feeder. They fill your bearded dragon up. They live a lot longer than crickets do. They smell nowhere near as bad as crickets do, and they're not loud. They're not going to chirp in your house all the time. Not sure if you could hear a cricket chirping, but it's chirping in here. Dubia roaches are my personal favorite feeders for my reptiles. The Dubia Dude's website is also awesome because other than just being super easy to navigate, they have subscription services, so you can have your dubia roaches mailed to you as a subscription, and that makes life a whole lot easier. Make sure to use code Elle at thedubiadude.com to save 10% off of your entire order. Thank you so much to the Dubia Dude for continuing to sponsor these videos. As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a video, which is every Sunday and some Wednesdays. This week's Instagram shoutout is here, and this week's subscriber shoutout is here. Thank you guys both so much for watching and following and subscribing and liking and all of that jazz. You are the bee's knees. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. Good morning. Good morning, reptilians. Welcome. Good morning, reptilians. Is this where it's supposed to be? I think so. Okay. I'm kind of sweaty. Okay. Video number 3 for today. It is not good for them, and it is not good for actually. And if they have absorbed, if they have eaten that, so that way proper. Actually, so I will put a. There will be a list. There will be a link down below to. I will leave. You can have your dubia roaches mailed to you on a subscription-based service. You can have your dubia roaches. You can have your